Hello and welcome to IsaanFlicks. Today I would like to tell you a fictional story based upon facts about an Englishman's first encounter of an Isaan rural village, which is in the northeast of Thailand in 1980. The Englishman was fascinated by Thai culture, but it was not until he visited his wife's village in rural Isaan that he truly gained a deep appreciation for the warmth and resilience of Isaan and Thai people generally. So I shall ask you to sit back, relax, and I shall begin. It was near the end of 1980 when John, a young Englishman, first set foot in the rural village of his Thai wife, Nok, in Isaan, Thailand. Thailand's unique culture and its welcoming people had always fascinated John. However, nothing could have prepared him for the adventure that awaited him in Isaan. John had met Nok, who was a teaching assistant while working in Bangkok as an English teacher almost 2 years prior. Nevertheless, after 18 months of dating, they decided to get married, and John was eager to meet Nok's family and experience Thai village life. Nok had warned him that the village was very different from the bustling city of Bangkok. Nevertheless, John was excited to see what it was like. They took the overnight bus from Bangkok to Ubon Ratchathani, and that was an adventure on its own. Firstly, it took longer than it does today, as the road infrastructure was not as it is today, and the bus was not as comfortable as they are now. Nevertheless, they arrived early next morning and decided to have some breakfast at a local market before getting a small local bus to Nok's village. It was on this small bus that John could now clearly see how different the landscape was in comparison to what he had seen around Bangkok and the eastern seaboard areas. They travelled out past several small villages and hamlets and through kilometres of nothing but farmland, rice paddies, many water buffaloes and a few cows. As they arrived in the village, John noticed the stark contrast between the city and the rural countryside. The air was fresh and clean, and the roads were made of dirt, red dirt. The houses were made of wood and bamboo, and there were no skyscrapers or shopping malls in sight. The village was full of smiling faces, and John felt welcomed immediately. The first thing John noticed was the vibrant colours of the traditional Isaan clothing worn by the villagers. Women were dressed in brightly coloured sarongs with matching tops, and the men wore loose-fitting pants and shirts made of cotton. John felt a little out of place in his Western-style clothing, but the locals did not seem to mind. As they approached Nok's family home, the simple beauty of the surroundings really struck John. The house was made of wood and had a tin-sheeted roof. There was a small garden in the front filled with colourful flowers, various plants and herbs. Chickens roamed freely around the yard, and a group of children played in the distance. Nok's family welcomed John warmly, and he soon found himself surrounded by curious villagers. Despite the language barrier, they managed to communicate through smiles, hand gestures, and a few basic words in Thai. John felt overwhelmed, but excited to be part of this new world. The first night in the village, John was treated to a traditional Isaan meal cooked by his new mother-in-law in what John thought was a makeshift kitchen with an open wood fire on the floor, kept in place by cement blocks. Nok told him it was a typical Isaan kitchen. No gas appliances were needed, as his mother only cooked over a wooden or charcoal fire. The area was filled with smoke, but that soon cleared as the cooking got underway, and John then realised why the walls around the cooking area under the rear of the house were blackened. The table was set outside under the stars and the family gathered around to eat. John was introduced to a variety of new dishes, including spicy papaya salad, stir-fried chicken, barbecued chicken, and sticky rice, of course. Knox's family explained the proper way to eat with your fingers, and John tried it, though he found it a little tricky, but enjoyed rolling sticky rice with the tasty food. After dinner, the family gathered around a small fire pit to chat and relax. John was amazed by the sense of community in the village. Everyone seemed to know each other and looked out for one another. The villagers shared stories and laughter, and John felt privileged to be part of it. Then it was time for bed, and that came as a bit of a surprise for John, as Knock showed him the room upstairs and started to string up a mosquito net to the roof trusses, as there were no ceilings, and the window openings had no glass, but they were closed by wooden shutters. Another surprise was the rolled up bedding laid out on the floor under the mosquito net. However, John's biggest surprise were the showering arrangements, which were located outside of the house. Several large cement jars containing water. Knock gave John a sarong to change into, and then showed him how to pour water over himself and take a shower. The water was a nice temperature and refreshing, after which John felt relaxed but tired, and surprisingly had a very good night's sleep, the first he had slept under a mosquito net. The next day, Knock took John on a tour of the village after having another outdoor shower wearing a sarong. They visited the local market where vendors sold fresh produce, handmade crafts and clothing. The variety of goods for sale and the bustling atmosphere of the market amazed John. He tried some of the local street food, including grilled pork meat skewers and fried bananas. As they continued their tour, John saw the different aspects of village life. He saw the rice paddies where the villagers worked hard to grow their crops, and he saw children playing in the streets, well, more like red dirt alleyways. John was once again amazed by the simplicity of life in the village, and yet how happy the villagers seemed to be. One of the most memorable experiences for John was the local temple. Knock's family, being Buddhist of course, took John to the temple to offer alms to the monks. John was again struck by the ornate decorations of the temple and the peaceful atmosphere inside. He watched as the monks chanted and meditated, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. Throughout his stay in the village, John learned many new things about Thai culture and the way of life in rural Isaan. He learned how to properly greet elders and show respect, and how important family is in the Thai culture. He also saw how hard-working and resilient villagers were, despite facing challenges such as poverty and limited resources. He became proficient in showering Isaan village style by ladling water over himself while wearing a sarong or short pants outside in the garden. As Knock's parents' house had no indoor plumbing. In fact, there was no running water connected to the house. Water had to be collected from a hand pump located in the middle of the village. However, water piping installations were currently ongoing in the village, as were the electrical distribution network. Knock's family home had been hooked up to the electrical network only recently and had one light and one socket outlet under the house and 2 lights and 2 socket outlets upstairs. Battery operated lights and oil lamps were still being used in many houses, and most villagers carried battery torches when out after dark. The house was a typical village house. constructed of wood on wooden piles or stilts. The two rooms, upstairs on one side and an open balcony on the other. Under the house was the makeshift kitchen and an area that had housed buffaloes in the past, but now housed farming equipment. The toilet was located adjacent to the house, a squat pan directly over a septic tank arrangement, housed in what John described as a wooden shed. As I said, there were several very large cement storage vessels located around the house that were used to collect rainwater for showering and washing purposes, as drinking water came from the village well. Many of the villagers still housed buffaloes and cattle under their houses at night, and it amused John seeing the animals led out to the fields in the morning and returning just before sunset each evening. One of the more amusing experiences John had during his stay in the village was when he tried to help with some of the manual labour. Knox's family were preparing to modernise the house, and John offered to help with the construction. However, his lack of experience and knowledge of building techniques made it clear he was more of a hindrance than a help. The villagers found it amusing to watch the tall, lanky Englishman attempt to hammer nails and carry heavy building materials. John just laughed along with them, realising he had a lot to learn. As the end of his visit approached, John felt a sense of sadness. He had grown to love the simple, peaceful life in the village and had made many new friends. Saying goodbye to Knox's family was difficult, but he knew he would come back to visit soon. Reflecting on his time in the village, John realised how much he had learned about Thai culture and the importance of community. He had gained a new appreciation for the simple things in life and had witnessed firsthand the resilience and strength of the villagers. As he boarded the bus back to Bangkok, John felt a sense of nostalgia and longing for the peaceful life in the village. He knew he would always cherish the memories and experiences he had gained during his first visit to rural Isaan. Years after John's first visit to Knox village, he had not returned to Isaan for a family gathering. John was surprised to see how much the village had changed since his first visit. The roads were now paved with concrete and many new homes had been built in and around the village. Despite the changes, the sense of community and hospitality remained the same. John was greeted warmly by the villagers, many of whom he recognised from his previous visit. He was amazed to see how some of the children he had met had grown into young adults, and how Knox's family had expanded to include more members. During the family gathering, John and Knox shared stories and memories of their first visit to the village. They laughed at John's attempts to help with the construction and his struggles with eating with his fingers and then learning to shower and use a squat toilet. John was grateful for the opportunity to reconnect with the villagers and see how much their lives had progressed. As John and Knox prepared to leave, they were once again filled with a sense of sadness. Saying goodbye to the village and the people they had grown to love was never easy. However, they knew they would always cherish the memories and experiences they had gained during their time in rural Isaan. Years later, John and Knox continued to visit the village regularly, bringing their children and grandchildren with them. They are welcomed with open arms and are grateful for the opportunity to share the simple, peaceful life in the village with their loved ones. John's first visit to Knox village in rural Isaan was an eye-opening and life-changing experience. It opened his eyes to a different way of life and taught him the importance of community, family and resilience. It also sparked a lifelong love for the Thai culture and a deep appreciation for the welcoming and hospitality of the hospitable nature of the Thai people. However, today, most houses have modern conveniences like indoor bathrooms and kitchens with gas cookers, colour televisions, mobile phones and the internet. But John still remembers his first experience in an Isaan village, with no running water, very little electricity, as most houses will still be hooked up to a supply, and the occupants were still using oil lamps and battery lights. Of course, only the houses with the electricity back then had a TV if they could afford one. There were no telephones other than a coin-operated one at the village store, where the storekeeper would take messages to pass on, usually from sons and daughters working away, trying to keep in touch with parents and relatives. John's first visit to rural Isaan was a life-changing experience. As I said, that taught him the importance of community, family and resilience. He gained a new appreciation for the simple things in life and a lifelong love for Thai culture. His visits to the village continue to bring him joy and a sense of peace as he reconnects with the people who have become like family to him. John's story is a reminder of the transformative power of travel and the beauty of embracing different cultures. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story, a look back into the past. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to leave me a comment. But until my next video, it is a very goodbye from me. Bye bye.